What's going on, man? It's your boy Jay Holley, and we are back with another episode of Unfiltered with Jesse Holley, episode Luca 77. Whew. Thank you. You're far too kind. You could have been anywhere in the world, but I am so glad you were here with me. I am Jesse Holley, the sports talk equivalent of Braille. People feel me when I speak. You guys know what you got to do, man. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Put me in the group text. Put me in the group text. Let everybody know that they need to go to YouTube. They need to like. They need to subscribe. They need to go to Apple or Spotify. Like, review, leave a good review. 5 stars on that thing. Go everywhere. Follow Fanatics Views. Follow Unfiltered with Jesse Holley on all the platforms. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, I don't even know, Facebook, and then hit me up on Twitter at Mr. Fourth and Long. Like, make it happen. You know what I'm saying? You guys know how I like to get down. I like to give my motivation at the beginning of the show because let's be honest, some of you will not be here at the end. I'm not for everybody. And that's okay. I had to tell a dude yesterday morning or today, whatever. I was like, hey, my boy, he was like, I don't listen to a certain show that I'm on because Jesse Holley. I'm just like, hey, buddy, sorry. Sorry, I'm not for everybody. I'm not. And that's okay. But you can go somewhere else. There's a lot of other great people who create content. Unfortunately, I'm not for you. And that's perfectly fine. It's okay. All right, man, here is the motivation for the day. Please catch this because it may go over your head. All right, please catch this because it may go over your head. Here is the motivation for today. But what if it goes right? But what if it goes right? So often we play these mind games with ourselves. We are afraid to take the first steps. We are afraid to start over. We are afraid to put ourselves out there. We are afraid to do the things that we dream about. We are afraid to end things because we have this negative mindset. But what if it goes wrong? But I want to quit this job and start my career. But what if it all goes wrong? And I'm here to tell you, eliminate the negative thoughts. When I say eliminate the contingencies, that is eliminating the negative thoughts. That is eliminating those things that is hindering you from moving forward in whatever that thing is you need to move forward into better you. And so I say to you, but what if it goes right? That's what you should wake up and tell yourself every single day. Because the enemy, the people who don't understand, the people who don't know, the people who hate on you, the people who don't believe in you, they're going to continuously feed you. But if it goes wrong, but if it goes bad, man, I'm telling you, man, that's quite impossible. To them, it's impossible. To you, but what if it goes right? That is always an option. Going wrong, going bad, having it fail is an option, but it's not an option that you have to choose. But what if it goes right? Let that be the thing that leads your thoughts, not anything else. All right, man, let's get into this game. The Cowboys take on the Atlanta Falcons this Sunday afternoon. It's a noon kickoff. And I'm so thankful that it's a noon kickoff because I hate night games. I hate waiting all day. I hate doing my pregame show at 6 o'clock. I hate doing my postgame show at 11 o'clock. I hate getting home at 1:30 in the morning, having to get right back up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to get my day started again. Hate it. Don't like it. Didn't like it as a player. Don't like it as a guy who covers it. Do not like it. So happy it's a noon game. I can get up. I can get a good breakfast in. I can get over to where I got to get to. Catch me at Canvas on Sundays doing the pre-halftime and post-game show. I can get the game watched, get the game over, and I'm back to the crib. Nobody loves being home more than me. Nobody. I love me some home. You hear me? I love me some home. I don't want to be anywhere else. 12 noon game. Little interesting side note. And I know that a lot of you, this literally just came across my feed like 10 minutes ago. The Cowboys game will be on Fox. As you know, the Cowboys this year on Fox has been covered by one who? Tom Brady and the A-team. Not this game. This game you get the B team. I think you get what's tight end's name? Greg Olsen. You get Greg Olsen. Y'all want to get Jerry's attention? Him not getting the A team on Fox, that will get Jerry's attention. That'll get Jerry to kind of go perk up a little bit and go. So more Jerry getting the B team and not getting the A squad and not getting the A block and all that kind of stuff. Those are the things that get Jerry's attention. All right, let's jump into this thing, man. The Cowboys playing the Falcons. Interesting game. Really interesting game because when I watched the Falcons defense first. That was the first thing that I watched and kind of broke down. I was just like, okay, 3-4 defense. They don't have anything special. They have Matthew Judon, who was a good pass rusher when he was in New England with the Patriots. No juice. No juice. I'm watching him. No juice, no real threat, no real effort. Now, I caution myself when I say that because I know what I watch on film. I trust my eyes and the things that I see on film. But I also know, as someone who used to play in this league and play sports my entire life, I did know even if I wasn't playing well or I wasn't doing my normal 1-2 step, but when I seen that team that we were playing had an opportunity to dominate a guy, I get a little pep in my step. My energy gets there a little bit. I take a little longer in my stretch. I make sure that I'm ready to go this week because this might be the thing. You guys didn't know who Adrian Claiborne was. Remember that guy? You guys didn't know who he was. He wasn't a guy that was tearing the league up. He wasn't a guy who was a fierce and feared and dominating pass rusher. No, he wasn't. Most of you did not know him. Most of you did not know leading up to that point when the Cowboys played Atlanta that year that he only had 8 career sacks. A lot of you didn't know that. Oh, but they saw a mouse in the house and Chaz Green 6 sacks later. I think Adrian Claiborne finished that year with 8 sacks total. Ended up going to the Pro Bowl, literally off the Cowboys because of this sack total. So I find it hard to believe that I look over, I'm watching film, and if I'm Matthew Judon and I look over and I go, boy, look at that Terrence Steele. Start licking your lips. You start thinking about barbecue chicken. So I watch film and I'm like, man, Matthew Judon don't got no more juice, man. Don't look like he's really giving full. It looks like he's giving full effort. Like they don't have anybody up front that is truly someone to fear. This may be the first week where the Cowboys are getting a little bit of a break. Literally every single week. It was Myles Garrett one week. And then it was, a good defense in New Orleans the next week. And then it was TJ Watt. And then it was Sexy Dexy and Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. And then it was the Watts. And then it was Bosa. And it was a host of fear pass rushers. They don't have that. But I just, in the back of my mind, it just won't leave me thinking, is the Cowboy offensive line medicine? Are they the CVS, the Walgreens to a team's bad? The Atlanta Falcons, their defensive front has 6 sacks total on the year. 6. And that's the only thing that worries me is that do they look at the Cowboys offensive line and say, hey, fellas, let's go hunting. We can go out there and really we can have a day. We can have a day against this offensive line. And so when I saw them defensively, I thought, man, there's plays to be made out there. And then I said, boy, watching the other running backs run and having cutback lanes and getting, plus yardage and getting big gains and, going back and forth. And I thought to myself, boy, man, there are some plays to be made in the run game on this team. Look at the vision. Oh, look at the cutback. Look at Bucky Irvin. Look at Kenneth Walker and all these other guys. And then I literally paused it. I paused the iPad and I thought, am I fooling myself? Am I fooling myself? Am I allowing myself to see something in this film from other teams and these other backs, and then fooling myself into believing that the backs that the Cowboys currently have on their roster are able to do this? Am I fooling myself into believing that the vision and the cutback and the burst that I've seen these other backs do and have success versus Atlanta defense, am I fooling myself into believing that it could happen for the Cowboys backs? And I really just sat there for a second like, the Cowboys have been over 20 games since they've had a 100-yard rusher. There's only been 2 games this year that a back in the Cowboys backfield, in the stable of the Cowboys backs that they have, has rushed more than 10 times. Only 2 times that they had more than 10 rushes in 2 games. The Cowboys are averaging like 70, 76, 75 yards a game. I was like, man, I'm fooling myself. I'm fooling myself into believing that the plays that I see that could be made on this Atlanta defense, the Cowboys have the ability, facilities, backs that are be able to do it. And I went back watching film, and I thought to myself over and over and over and over again, boy, I wish we had a back that was able to resemble some of this. Now, I don't know truly what Dalvin Cook may have left. And I don't know if we'll even get a chance to truly see it, because unless Rico has a 3-hour bug again, he's probably going to be your starting back. And that means either Zeke and or Cook will be the running back, but Mike McCarthy, he's been coming out and saying these different things and saying that Rico is the lead back, which I believe if he's going to be the lead back, leave him in there. Leave him in there till he needs a blow. And then you can pick about who you want to go in there. But if Rico's your guy, let Rico get in there, get the rhythm, find yourself in there. Maybe if you give a back an opportunity to rush the ball more than 10 times, you'll be able to have some success in the running game. But offensively for this Cowboys team, I got to be honest with you guys. I really do have to be honest with you. I have soured on Michael McCarthy from Pittsburgh, and the way that he calls plays. And this is how I know that this team is imploding and that this team is cooked. Because I want to read you something that I thought was just telling about where we are in the state of football in the year our Lord and Savior 2024. And this is a quote from Mike McCarthy on Dak Prescott. And I just want you to listen to some of the things that he is saying, and it's going to spell out for you why this football team is in the shape that it is in from a schematic point. Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy on Dak Prescott. Number one, this system is built on making quarterbacks successful. That's the way I learned it 30 plus years ago. I'm going to read that again. Number one, the system is built on making quarterbacks successful. That's the way I learned it 30 plus years ago. So everything we do is built into that. Obviously, the starting point of making a quarterback successful is running the football. I'll read it again. Obviously, the starting point of making a quarterback successful is running the football. We can start right there. McCarthy goes on and says, we need to get more production out of the run game, increase the action pass opportunities, means play action pass, and then from that, take it to the next step, and that's the pass protection. And obviously, the pass perimeter. It's about making him successful. If anything, I would guard against asking him to feel like he has to do more than he's already doing. He just needs to really focus on playing quarterback. He is a great worker, super diligent, and we'll get to where we need to get to. There's several things in that comment from Michael from Pittsburgh that he makes. What and how I learned this offense 30 years ago. This is 2024, Mike. That offense that West Coast offense from 30 years ago, if that thing hasn't evolved, if you ain't take that thing to you know what he done? Here's what Micah from Pittsburgh has done. If you guys are of my age, then you will remember this. There used to be a show back in the day, right? The show was called, it was hosted by Exhibit, and it was called Pimp My Ride. Y'all remember that show? Pimp My Ride? Exhibit would go around mainly on the West Coast, and they would find these people who had these broke down looking, barely running cars, and what they would do is they would get these cars, they would see the interest and likes of these people, they would take them to this body shop, and they would pimp this ride out in some of the most craziest ways possible, putting fish tanks in it and TVs in it and all this other nonsense. What I never seen them do in Pimp My Ride. Yeah, they'd change the paint color on it. They maybe fix some dents and some scratches, and they'd put some good interior in there and all that kind of stuff. What I never, ever, ever, ever saw in Pimp My Ride was them actually go in and fix the one thing that makes the car run. I never seen them go on and adjust and give it a tune-up, replace an engine, spark plugs, belts, radiators, fans, motors, none of that. And I think what Michael from Pittsburgh has done from this 30-year-old archaic offense is he's trying at some ways to go pimp my ride, to take that old thing and put some rims on it and make it look like it has changed when in reality, the engine is still bad. So you can dress it up however it is you want to dress it up. It's old, it's archaic, it's not functioning in today's football. Your granddaddy's offense ain't working in your great-grandson's NFL. And I think that is the biggest thing we talk about, Mike. Then you go and you talk about the run game. They talked about it all offseason long. We're going to be a running back by committee. We're good enough to be running back by committee. We're good enough to be running back committee. We got a stable of backs. Till the other day you go, I don't know if running back by committee is the ideal thing. Wait a minute. You built your foundation on what you were doing offensively by running back by committee. That's what you told us. That's what you were practicing. That's what you were putting into form all offseason. And now you're telling us it may not be. And I get it. Football's fluid. Things change. But you had to know that running back by committee, when the running backs that you have in this here committee aren't good enough to do it, Michael. Let's be honest. And this is nothing against the person of Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle is not a starting running back in the National Football League. He is a National Football League player. He's not a starter. He's not a starter. I highly doubt that Rico would start for any other football team in this league. Would he play? Sure. He could be a backup, can be a third stringer, can return some kicks, play special teams. You made him a starter. And then you turned around and you said, okay, behind this starter, we're going to get a guy who has no more left in the tank in Ezekiel Elliott. You didn't even give yourself an opportunity to get somebody with a little bit younger and fresher legs that may be able to give you a little juice. Then you doubled down on that and said, yeah, I'm going to go get another. Do you know why you were able to get Dalvin Cook at the stage in which you got Dalvin Cook? Michael, nobody else wanted him. He was at home on the couch. And you brought him in and thought what? That this was going to be the reason and how you took this running back by committee and grew? That's not how this league works. You've been around long enough to know that, Michael. Michael from Pittsburgh. And then you proceed to go on and talk about, then we have to look at, the pass protection and in the run blocking and so on and so forth. You knew what Terrence Steele was. You understood that Zach Martin was declining and start talking about retirement. Tyron Smith left and went to the Jets. You took a project in the first round. You didn't take a surefire thing in the first round. You took a project. You took a guy who had 14 career starts in college. Oh, and I'm going to get into the developmental thing when it comes to the National Football League. That's coming later on. You took a guy who had 14 career starts in college. And then you put him at the most, who not only didn't have enough starts, even in the 14 starts that he had, there were flaws in his technique, major flaws in his technique. Is he big? Is he athletic? Does he have some traits? Absolutely. But you took a guy who had major flaws and you were going to put him in a position in the National Football League that is the hardest position to play on the offensive line. And you thought, oh, well, baptism by fire will work out for him. And many of you, whether you want to admit it or not, you all thought to yourselves, well, the more reps he gets, the better he has to become. Au contraire, mon ami. That's not true. There's a guy that's on the other side of the line who you've given so many reps and all he's done is regress. His name's Mozzie Smith. You have an example of what that looks like. Yet, here we are. And then Michael from Pittsburgh goes on and on and on and on and on, and he talks about we're going to get this together. And why I find that very hard to believe, because my next statement is going to be the one where I transition out of the offense, because it is what it is. You have Dak Prescott, who's having not one of his best years. You have CeeDee Lamb, and you have a bunch of others. Your tight end, you can't truly get involved. Your second receiver, you just can't truly. And he's not having a bad year, but he's not a guy. He hasn't. No one fears him. And most teams on the perimeter are built of at least a dominant number one, a supreme number one, and a really good, really good number two that they actually have to think about or worry about. And hopefully you can add a tight end to the mix. No one fears any of those guys on your football team. And they said it publicly. Ask Detroit. They said, stop 88, and we don't give a damn about the rest of those dudes. And this is what y'all put together. But riddle me this. Most of you, if not all of you, will probably say, because I would say it, I would say yes, the answer is yes. But if I ask you the question, are most NFL games won and or lost in the trenches? You, if you're a real football fan and you understand the game of football, your answer probably should be, no, not probably, your answer should be yes. Football games are won and or lost in the trenches. Yes. Like if you're watching this, yes, right? Like here's where you nod your head. Yeah, Jess, you're right. Football games are won and lost in the trenches. That's right. With the big uglies, the hogs, the road graders, all those guys on the offense and defensive line. Yes? Yes. Nod your head. There you go. There you go. Yes. Well, if what you're saying is yes, I'm saying it's yes and it's true. If the Cowboys have the 32nd ranked defensive line and the 28th ranked offensive line, how can we realistically go into games where teams are as good or better than them and think to ourselves that they're going to win the football game? Because if what you're saying is true and what I'm saying is true, that games are won and lost in the trenches, and their trenches are the worst in football, how are we coming to the conclusion? How are we developing this synopsis that the Cowboys have the ability to win football games? You can't stop anybody from moving you, and you can't move anybody. You don't get pressure on the quarterback. You can't stop anyone from getting pressure on your quarterback. You can't stop anybody from running the football on you, and you can't run the football on anybody. How? Make it make sense to your boy, Jay Holley. How are we realistically coming into games like this one against Atlanta and saying, but our team can win? Either our math ain't mathing or we're delusional liars. It's harsh. I get it. I understand. And is injury a factor? Sure. I'll give you that. But I'll also say that there were points in time in the game, in the season, where you had all those guys. You were missing Bland, but you had the rest of the guys. And we saw what New Orleans did to you. We saw what Baltimore did to you. And you had Diggs and Tank and Micah and all the rest of the guys. The one guy you didn't have was DaRon Bland, but DaRon Bland wouldn't stop them from bullying you. DaRon Bland's absence isn't the reason that you got bullied, you got beat up, you got dominated. And it just continue on when the teams that are equal to or better than you. You have no answer for them. And then that takes me to this defense. When you look at going up against Atlanta, it's going to be you're going to have a day. You're going to have a day. Not a good day either. While they don't have the greatest offensive line, Bijan going to give you a headache. Bijan is going to give you a headache. And I called Kirk Cousins, and I know no one ever said this, but it's just always funny for me to say. I always laugh when I hear it. They said that, no one said it. It was a thing that was a rumor that was false and it was fake, but it makes me laugh when the rumor went out and they said that Kirk Cousins is the black Dak Prescott and Dak Prescott is the white Kirk Cousins. It's always funny to me. It's never not going to be funny to me. No one never said it. It was made up. It was a lie. It was a fairy tale that was put out there, but it is funny to me. But the white Dak Prescott is cooking down in Atlanta. And I call him a prophet. No, not the prophet. I call him a prophet taker. Not the prophet like, holier than thou prophet. No, prophet like in money, like in winnings. And I call him a prophet taker because when you watch this team offensively, he's an equal opportunist. He'll throw it to the back. He'll throw it to the tight end. He'll throw it to Mooney. He'll throw it to London. He'll throw it to any guy that is open. He'll throw it to him right now. And offensively, Atlanta makes you defend 53 and a third. That's from sideline to sideline, every blade of grass. And then they'll just nickel and dime you all the way down the field. Then they'll run the football. Then they'll profit in front, profit on side, profit in the flats. And then once you get tired of them getting profit and you think you just gonna run up and stop them, bang, over the top. And they have the weapons. And unfortunately, everything that they really good at is where you actually suffer. This is one of those matchups. Mooney, the receiver from Atlanta, his prototype, quick, shifty, can run good routes, is explosive. Those are the guys that give Trevon Diggs a little bit of trouble. Not a little bit of trouble, they give him trouble. The shifty guys, the guys who get in and out of their breaks, who can make sudden movements, who can turn on a burst, stop, turn on a burst again. Those are the guys that give Trevon Diggs trouble. Kyle Pitts, who, remember 2 years ago, Kyle Pitts was borderline bust. He was flirting with getting packed up in that bus package. You bring in a new head coach who brings in a new offensive coordinator, which, by the way, find me the offensive coordinator name. I'm drawing a blank. The offensive coordinator name. He is a Sean McVay disciple. He's from that tree. Zach Robinson. You'll hear that name this offseason when it comes to the coaching hiring carousel. You'll hear that name. He's from the McVay tree. That McVay, that Shanahan tree. Those are the trees that give you a lot of action and a lot of motion, pre-snap, post-snap, at the snap. They give you a lot of motion. Those things give the Cowboys defense hell. And if Raheem Morris, the head coach, if he's worth his weight in salt, he sat down and he watched film last week. And he said, the 49ers found a way to get George Kittle lined up on this number 6 kid. I need to find a way to take the bigger, stronger, faster, maybe even more athletic Kyle Pitts and get him lined up on his number 6 kid. And so him and Zach, they probably sat there and was like, this is where we got to go. And for whatever reason, Michael Zimmer from Illinois won't change out those safeties and give maybe an opportunity to Wanye Thomas or to Marquise Bell. Give them a shot at trying to cover down, because the guy that you got in there, he ain't doing it. But I get it. Jerry does not want to see his millions sitting on the sideline. If I was a businessman, I'd be the same way. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what about DaRon Bland? Heard he's active. Well, don't count on DaRon Bland playing this week. DaRon Bland had to be activated because when you're on IR, they open up a 21-day window for you to return from IR. Either you return from IR or you go back on IR for the rest of the year with no return. Pack your season up. It's done. So when they had DaRon Bland come off IR and opened up his 21-day window to return, I think, no one has said it yet, but I think there was a major setback in his foot that did not get him right. And then the 21-day window was ending, so they had to activate him. So don't confuse him being activated as he is going to play. I don't think you're going to see DaRon Bland this week. You probably won't see DaRon Bland next week either. You're also probably not going to see Micah Parsons. He was in the rehab group yesterday. And Michael from Pittsburgh said that he has to see a significant amount of progress on Saturday to get Micah Parsons to play. And even if Micah plays, being that he had an ankle injury, that means he wasn't doing much conditioning. I don't know where he's going to be at right now. Hadn't practiced, right? Been out 4 weeks or something like that. I don't know where he's at conditioning-wise. So even if he plays, I don't know where he's at conditioning-wise. And I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm Micah Parsons, if Jesse Holley was Micah Parsons, I personally would not come back until I was 100%. Because you are in a contract here, Micah. This is the contract year for you. And while you may not have the numbers that you want, the last thing that you want is to come back sooner than you're supposed to come back, re-injure the ankle, or compensate for the ankle and injure another body part more tragically or significantly. That could really set back what happens to you in your contract in the offseason. So if I'm Micah Parsons, there's no way in the world I'm rushing back to the playing field until I am absolutely 1,000% healthy enough to go. So not having them this weekend, you take the one guy on your roster, the one human being on your roster that is able to create some sort of pressure on the quarterback just off talent alone. There's not another person that you have on this current roster right now. Maybe Demarion Overshown, but I think he's still a little bit, young. Side note, by the way, if I'm Michael Zimmerman from Illinois, I may take a page out of Dan Quinn from Jersey's book and go, let me see what this number 13 kid can be as a pass rusher. Because I need to form a pass rush. Quarterbacks don't fear you pass rushing them. So they sit back in the pocket all day. Kirk Cousins, when he gets rushed, when he gets pressure, like most other quarterbacks, are bad quarterbacks. But when he stands in the pocket, not only does he become a profit taker, he becomes a damn good profit taker. And if you don't want him throwing for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, then damn it, you better manufacture some pressure, and you better manufacture some pressure often. It is going to be a very, 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 very difficult task for the Cowboys defense to stop this offense. And we haven't even gotten into Bijan Robinson running the ball. And when you look at this Cowboys defensive line, they've given up rushing totals of 190 yards, 274 yards, 184 yards, 236 yards. If you think this team ain't trying to run the football on you, you a fool. No. Take that back. You a damn fool. You a damn fool if you think they ain't going to try to run that ball on you. And Bijan is one of these new age backs where he is fast, he is big, he has vision, he has contact balance, catches out of the backfield. I mean, he can do it all. And if you don't come ready to practice, ready to play, and ready to tackle, they're going to embarrass you. They are going to embarrass you. I don't know. I don't know how I can find a way for the Cowboys to win this football game. I tried, but the more I try and think about it, I also have to be realistic with myself and go, they just don't have the Jimmies and Joes. This team doesn't have good football players. And because of that, they suffer on Sundays. And this will be another Sunday where another team gets off on the Cowboys. I got the Cowboys losing this game 34-19. 34-19. They got the over at 52. I got them 34-19. Yeah. 34-19. That's where I have it. All right, man, let's move around the sports world. Interesting conversation. Micah Parsons. We know that he has his podcast, Feel How You Feel About the Podcast. But this week, his guest was Trevon Diggs on his podcast. And as you know, Trevon Diggs had the big media kerfluffle with WFAA reporter Mike Leslie, where Mike Leslie tweeted out something about Trevon Diggs, and Trevon Diggs, right after the game, still in full uniform, sees it, comes back out of the locker room, confronts Mike Leslie. They have an exchange of words. Of course, if you haven't been living under the rock, you know that Mike Leslie said, hey, let's talk about it. And Trevon Diggs said, talk about these nuts. That never gets old. Got him. Got him. Trevon Diggs and Mike Leslie has cleared the air. Shout out to the Cowboys media department. I don't think this was on Trevon Diggs, but shout out to the Cowboys media department. They brought the two together, and Trevon Diggs came with the olive branch. He came bearing gifts. He offered Mike Leslie a choice of a can of D's Nuts. No, not his actual nuts, but the company called D's Nuts. He had a ranch flavor and he had a banana pudding, which, by the way, I didn't know they made a banana pudding flavored nuts. Don't know if I would like that flavor of nuts, but I am a fan of banana pudding. So maybe D's Nuts. If you see this and want to send me a can of D's Nuts banana pudding, I'll try them. Try them on there. Hey, by the way, if you want to be a sponsor on this show, D's Nuts, we can have your logo right here in the bottom or up here on the top or up here or down here. D's Nuts all the way. I get to say D's Nuts every single episode if you are a sponsor, D's Nuts. So make sure that D's Nuts, if you're watching this, we would love to have you. We would love to have your nuts on Unfiltered with Jesse Holley. Pair your nuts with my nuts. We'll have a hell of a show. You can clip that and send that to D's Nuts. We might get them as a sponsor. You never know. Let's team up. My nuts and your nuts. Let's go. Let's drop our nuts on this podcast. You know what I'm saying? Let's drop our nuts on this podcast. These nuts. Pause. As long as our nuts don't touch, we're good. And so they had an offering. Mike Leslie apologized. Trevon Diggs apologized, and all is well in that land. But it led to an interesting conversation between the two Cowboys defensive players. And the conversation was about media and how media should treat, especially media that covers the team, how they should treat players and how. And one of the things that I thought about was there is a clear distinction because there are a couple types of media. You have your national media, right? You have your Fox, your FS1s, your ESPNs, your national media, right? Those guys sit in their studios and they get paid the big bucks and all that kind of stuff. And they're reporting on a host of sports through all the sports sphere. And then you have your local media. That's when you have your beat writers and your reporters and your local radio and television and your podcast locally in your city that's more hands-on with the players and the interaction with the players, so on and so forth. And I think then you also have this new age of media, the new type of media, the content creators is what they call it nowadays, on the YouTubes and on the Kicks and on all the different streaming platforms. And these are just people who, in their heart of hearts, they have been lifelong fans. Their daddies has been fans of the team that they covered. And with the advent of YouTube and these other platforms, that these now people who don't have journalism degree, which I'm not saying that you have to have those, aren't working for the big networks, aren't beat writers or journalists or news people, but now they have a platform because you can get a microphone and a laptop off eBay and a camera, and you need a good internet service, and now you got a show. And I'm here for it. Trust me, I feed myself and those around me from a microphone, a laptop, and a camera. But there is a difference in how things are coming about to be portrayed, because I think some of the players now, and there is I've said this many times. You as a fan, you get a chance to watch these gigantic sports figures in personality and in muscle. They like, you see these superhero type figures, big, strong, and they're your favorite athletes, and they can jump high and they can throw far and they can hit hard and they can leap over buildings in a single bound, and they're faster than a locomotive. And one of the things that I think a lot of you miss because you technically aren't around them more than outside of seeing them on social media or seeing them on the TV screen, a lot of fragile egos in professional athletes. A lot of sensitive dudes. A lot. And their entire lives, they've been told just how good they actually are. Rightfully so. Some of them, listen, I sat in those seats one day. Now, you can say what you want, because I know there's some of you like, oh, you wasn't SHIT in the National Football League. As long as you don't leave that I wasn't it in the National Football League. Don't forget that part, okay? All right? I got a chance to do what many would die to do, okay? And I'm pensioned for it, for life. Got it? Got it. But I also was one of the best college football players in the country. I also was one of the best high school football and basketball players in the country. So I get being told my entire life of just how good I am. And these athletes are no different. But there's a lot of these athletes who have this level of fragile ego and can't really take when the heat's turned on them. And I think sometimes, and this, again, I'm not knocking the people who are doing things now in the content creator space. A lot of good dudes who are doing it and ladies who are doing it. But what happens is you take these fans, who like a real life diehard fans, and then they begin to report on the team. And at times they aren't as objective as they need to be. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have hate bait or hate clickbait or whatever that is, the negative, but I'm saying that you have to be honest and you have to be truthful. And sometimes you have to live in a place where that hopium or that optimism that you live in, this la la land that you live in, may not always be true. And so sometimes players look at that and go, why can't our guys be more like them? And my response to that is because they're not them. I often remind people that when they talk about, oh, Jesse, you know, I hear the way that you talk and man, you're not really a Cowboy fan. And I quickly remind them, I'm not. I am a Cowboy. I'm also very objective. I'm also very opinionated. I also don't want to befriend any of those people in the locker room, because I'm going to talk the way that I want to talk, and I'm not trying to have a relationship. Not that that's a good or bad thing, but I'm not bashing anybody. But if you play bad, I'm going to say that you play bad. If you play good, I'm going to praise you and say you play good. But there's no fandom in me. People go, oh, well, you know, Jesse, you're a Tar Heel fan. I'm not. I'm a Tar Heel. There's no fan in me. I did it. That's who I am. That's what I did. And so I'm able to leave fandom to the side and be fair and open about what I see. And I'm not doing it like trying to prop up my favorite team. No, I'm going to be honest. And a lot of times when people don't understand. Now, please do not get me wrong. There are a lot of people who are out here that are here for clickbait, that will say things and do things just for the fact they want to get the engagement, because the engagement brings dollars to them. I get it. But there also are there are another set of group of people who are overly optimistic, delusional, and not real about what's actually happening. Both are true. Both are true. And what players have to realize is the media is not here to be your friend. Because you have nothing to say to them when you do something well and they write that you did well. You don't say nothing then. You're retweeting their tweets and you're retweeting their articles and all that good stuff. And you're playing back when they say this and you're playing back when they say that. But this comes along. It is not the media's job to protect your feelings because you feel bad about what was said about you. Now, I'm not saying that they should make things up about you. I'm not saying that they should have false narratives about you. But if you play bad and they said you play bad, don't get mad. Play better. Play better. But it's not the media, even the media that is working for your organization. The media's job is to explain to the fans and report to the fans the things that they see from the eyes in which they from the eyes of which they sit. Now, you can work with them, you can have conversations with them, you can help them detail things, right? Like, for example, I get that Micah, I get that Trevon was frustrated about what was happening. They just lost a football game. Emotions are running high. But Micah's, I keep saying Micah. But Trevon is also one of the guys who doesn't want to speak much to people. If you were more forthcoming with speaking to reporters and speaking to media people and explaining to them sometimes how things go, then maybe Mike Leslie would have had a better understanding of what was happening. Instead of you lashing out at that situation, and I'm not saying that Mike Leslie was right. I think Mike Leslie was wrong in what he tweeted. I think what he was trying to get to, he was wrong in what was happening in that particular moment. But if you and Mike Leslie had a man-to-man conversation to the side, and you could have told Mike Leslie, hey, bro, that's wrong. Here's what I was actually doing. Now you don't have this situation, this stain on you. But you reacted, you lashed out because your feelings were hurt. I agree with you. You were right in what you were actually doing. But you got a little emotional because the narrative had been leading up to that game that you were playing a little bit soft, turning down tackles, not willing to stick your nose in there, really setting the edge. And then actually the one game that you, in the Niners game, the game that Trevon Diggs was actually doing all those things, he got dinged for being, supposedly not hustling on the play, which he was doing the right thing. But there's this misunderstanding, and the media, the new age media, the content creators, there are some really, 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 really good ones, man. Shout out to my guy, Okoye. Shout out to my guy, Skywalker. Shout out to Vach. Shout out to Law. Shout out to Boss. Shout out to Jeff Kavanaugh. Shout out to, if I miss you, I'm sorry. Or I don't think you're that good. You pick which one you want it to be. Bobby Bell. There are a lot of good ones out there that are fair, but there's also a bunch out there that is just straight homerism. And that's nasty work. But players have to understand, because eventually a lot of those guys, and you see it even now, guys are having their own podcasts and being able to have their own narratives. And sometimes what they don't realize is that, you say negative stuff about other people as well. You don't always agree with what other players do. But if they called you out on it, you'd be like, oh man, you gotta be the same way. You're now playing in these waters. Because to have podcasts means you have to have an opinion. I mean, your opinion is not always going to match up with the things of what other people may feel. It means your opinion may not always be right. The things that you see may not be as such. So now that you're swimming in these waters, I don't think players really, all of them have an understanding of what the media job is. The media job is not to protect your feelings, not to disrespect you either. But it ain't to protect your feelings. The media is not your friend. The media is not your personal cheerleader. The media is the media. And they got to do what they got to do to write their stories, whether you agree with their stories or not. You don't want them to write bad things about you? Play well. That's it. Can't write bad stuff if you're playing well. But when you don't play well, you also can't get sensitive about it. Because we live in a day and time now where the eye in the sky don't lie. And everybody, which sometimes I hate, has access to tape. And I know, I get it. As a former player, I get sometimes the players are feeling like, how the hell she or he going to say I did something wrong, and they don't even know what the hell they watching. They don't know the calls. They don't know the formations. They don't know our checks. They don't know my keys. They don't know any of that. So how the hell can they go out there and have a opinion about a play, and you don't even know what the hell my responsibility is? And sometimes you're absolutely right. But welcome to 2024. And if you don't want people to say negative things about you on the field, don't play negatively. Or you better put together enough good that when you have a bad, they really can't go on your bad because you produced enough good. So I thought it was an interesting conversation. But we have changed, the dynamics have changed in what we are as a media conglomerate. And now the players have to understand that this is just not, it's really not about your feelings. Again, there should be no disrespect towards you, and people shouldn't take personal shots at you. But if they're upset, if they're assessing your game and it was bad, Playboy, you got to just be better. All right, man. Something came up the other day, and it stemmed from the recent benching of one Anthony Richardson, the number 4 overall pick a year ago in the draft of the Atlanta Colts, the Indianapolis Colts. And it kind of started with Anthony Richardson tapping out of a game and then getting in front of the media and being probably a little bit too honest. He was talking like it was just you and me. And sometimes honesty is not the best policy. I know the Lord says that thou shalt not lie, but sometimes thou shalt not tell the exact truth. And this might have been the one time for Anthony Richardson where the Lord would have forgiven that lie. When Anthony Richardson tapped out and he got to the podium and they asked him what happened when he tapped out, and he basically just said, well, I'm going to be honest with you, I was tired. And that set off alarms in the NFL community, both national and locally. Former and present players talked about him saying that he got tired at the quarterback position and how that is a stain from the quarterback position. And how can you lead this team when you tap out in the game simply because you're tired? And it's almost this unwritten rule or law or thing that in football, if you are a lineman or you're a quarterback, you don't get to tap out because you're tired. You just don't. Linemen don't get a chance to look over and be like, hey, I know this is play 47, but I'm tired. Now, if you're hurt, if you got the wind knocked out of you, if you got bubble guts, all those other things, get out the game and come back in. But just to simply say you were tired, unacceptable. Well, from that, Anthony Richardson has been benched. And Shane Steichen has decided that he's going to go with the grizzled vet, Joe Flacco, for the remainder of the season, or at least going forward. And then it got the conversation started and got me to thinking, because over the last couple months, you've seen the quarterback position specifically take a major hit. Anthony Richardson benched. Bryce Young, quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, benched. Who else was benched, Tay? There's one more quarterback that was benched. We've seen Zach Wilson benched. We've seen Justin Fields in his time is benched. We've seen, there's one more I'm missing, but you get my drift. And there is a development issue. Mac Jones. There we go. I was thinking New England. I couldn't think of Mac Jones. Mac Jones benched. And when you sit back and you ask yourself, there is a development problem. I do. I believe. I think so. One, college football from a quarterback position is not preparing these kids for the NFL. They just aren't. And here is the argument. Because if I'm a college coach, is it my job to prepare this kid for the NFL, or is it my job to win football games at the collegiate level by however that means at the collegiate level? Right? Like, I guess, do you want to produce an NFL quarterback? Sure, right? You want the best for the kid, but does that mean that what I want to run as a system is compromised? Because a lot of these college offenses aren't NFL pro-style offenses. Even from the language, right? A lot of times you look on the sideline and they're still doing the signs. And you'll see them come to the line of scrimmage and they'll clap. And then they'll look to the sideline. And then the coach will give them some sort of hand signal. And then that's the play. And then they get to the league and the coach goes, you got to call a play that is this long. And in that play, you give the formation, you give the protection, you give the motions, you give everybody's assignment, and then you give what they're supposed to be doing. And a lot of times in college, it's a one read. It's, hey, we're doing elbow. Elbow means everything. So I'll just say, hey, strong right, elbow, elbow, elbow. And that tells everybody what they're doing in elbow. Well, that's not the language that happens in the league. But even in elbow in college, it's telling you right now, hey, elbow, throw over here. And so these quarterbacks are getting into the league, and now they're having to take this major learning shift and this learning curve from what they learned in college and the thing that they learned in college, the one word systems, to now it being a multi-word system. And you're dealing with grown men who have families and baby mamas and side pieces and girlfriends, and like, hey, young fella, get this right. And then you're dealing with sophisticated defenses that are disguising late, and they're confusing you. And then now you're asking a head coach. See, the days of drafting a quarterback, sitting him for a year or two are dead. Mainly because, and this starts at ownership. Ownership are hiring these general managers and these head coaches and saying, you got to go and win right now. So if I draft a quarterback, he doesn't have time to sit and learn and how to become a professional NFL quarterback. He's thrown into the fire. And then now when that doesn't work after a year and a half, you've now fired the general manager and the head coach. All right, now here comes a new general manager and a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator. And that changes the philosophy. Well, hell, he didn't even get down the last philosophy that he had. And you put in a new quarterback coach and a new offensive coordinator and a new head coach who has different variations of what they want to run. And now this kid head is spinning again. And then if it doesn't work in 2 years, you're firing everybody again. And this kid's still on his rookie deal. So now he's getting to the 4th or 5th year of his rookie deal, and he's been on two head coaches, 2 general managers, 3 offensive coordinators, and a team that has not been built around him securely. So if you ask yourself the question, hell yeah, the NFL has a development problem, especially at the quarterback position. Because the days of you giving those guys time to learn this position and watch a veteran go out there and do it, call the plays, understand down and distance, understand tempo, understand how to run a 2-minute, how to run a 4-minute, understand how, different sides of the field, how to call an audible, how to do it, all these things. And you're asking them to do it right now. If we're being completely honest, with a generation of kids who might have the shortest attention span ever. If we're being honest. Now, I'm not here to diagnose anybody with anything, but we got more kids with ADHD, ADHD, PS, all types of stuff. PTDS, you name it, they need Adderall. They need Ritalin. We got more kids that have the dyslexia, that have learning disabilities than we've ever had. Kids can't sit there in a room without having to have fiddlesticks and wheelie things and all that kind of stuff. I'm not making fun of anybody who has those things. I'm saying that, talking about development. We are raising and these kids are playing the game of football. Not calling them done at all, but I'm just telling you that you don't even have kids nowadays who can sit in high school and college classrooms without really being able to not have medicine or some sort of learning disability. And so if you're not giving them time to learn the position and properly understand to sit behind a guy for a year or two, but throwing them out there, for every CJ Stroud, you're going to have a Bo Nix who ain't quite got it. You're going to have a Bryce Young who ain't quite got it. You're going to have Anthony Richardson who ain't quite got it. See, Peyton Manning and them, they had years to develop. Remember, Peyton Manning was terrible. He had time. Tom Brady had to sit behind some guys. Troy Aikman, he was 1-15. That was after they got him after that. He was 3-13. But his coach had time to develop. They put talent around them. They allow that thing to grow. If you're not giving these quarterbacks really a time to grow and they've been through 3 and 4, look at what happened to a guy like Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold got the hell out of New York, bounced around a couple times, and got somewhere where he actually can sit down and have some stability. Turn the kid's career around. Turn the kid's career around. Look at Jared Goff. Got with some good quarterback, some good coaching. Had a run at the Super Bowl with the Rams, and now has turned the Detroit Lions into a Super Bowl contending team. Geno Smith playing high-level football. You got to give these guys, you got to get these guys somewhere in a good, stable environment, especially when they're rookies. If they're in a chaotic situation and it's crazy turnover and there's no success and there's a bad locker room and the development is done. And then you have the Cleveland Browns cycle. You have that cycle. They just cannot get a quarterback. You have what's happening in Jacksonville where they just cannot get it right. With a quarterback, I think is talented. I think if you put Trevor Lawrence somewhere, you put Trevor Lawrence right now in with the Rams. That may happen. They may trade for him. I don't know. You know the Rams say F these picks. They don't say F these picks. It may work for you. But there is a developmental problem, especially at the quarterback position in the National Football League. The days of having time for a young kid to develop and be a franchise quarterback is dead. And I get it. You pay these guys a lot of money, and you want them to perform right now. But you know, if you want to do a study, Netflix, Hulu, whoever, take the Detroit Lions and how they were patient. Brad Holmes, the GM, and the Ford family said, hey, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you a little bit of time. We're going to let you come in here and change the culture. Implement your culture into this. We're not going to have a quick trigger. We're going to give you the resources. And in a couple years, when Dan Campbell got to Detroit, that first year wasn't good. Everyone laughed about the kneecaps and all that kind of stuff. And slowly but surely, they just keep putting down bricks. Trade happened, and they just started drafting right and started putting things in place. Boom, 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 boom. Culture was built. Now, Motor City Dan Campbell got that thing rolling. Arguably has one of the best offenses in the league. His quarterback is in the MVP conversation. Detroit, since hell, I can't even remember the last time Detroit was truly a Super Bowl contender. Truly a Super Bowl contender. And honestly, when you look at the way that this thing is happening in the NFC, I mean, they will be the favorite right now in the NFC. They will be the favorite. Now, they might have to go face, Kansas City or Baltimore, in the Super Bowl or whatever. But right now, San Fran's down. The Vikings, interesting. A couple other teams that may be interesting, but Green Bay may be a little interesting. But right now, it's Detroit versus everybody. And that's because that organization allowed development to truly happen. They allowed culture to truly happen. They allowed consistency to truly happen. They allowed foundations to be built and bricks to be built on top of it so that they would have a strong, strong base. And now people are looking at Detroit in a totally different light than they did 4 years ago. So if NFL teams want to look at how to build, look at Detroit. Look at Detroit. They're making all the right moves, and they're putting themselves in a position to win. All right, I went a little long on the other side. I'm going to get up out of here. Got to give congratulations. We got some things that we'll talk about. NBA viewership, we'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about NBA viewership next week. The Dodgers, they won the World Series. Congrats on their 8th World Series in franchise history. If you watch the game, what an epic collapse the Yankees had in the 5th inning. And I don't know about you, and you guys can leave it in the chat. You let me know, where does that fall? What is that 5th inning? The Yankees go into the 5th inning. They're up 5-0. Everything is rolling. You had opening home runs. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty dope. I'm watching the game. And Aaron Judge, we all know who Aaron Judge is and his ability to hit the blown ball. And it just wasn't happening for him in the World Series. And the announcer talks about, hey, last game you saw Aaron Judge be a little bit more patient. You saw his eyes be a little bit more in control and him not just swinging for the fences. And he goes, hey, this first at bat is going to be a really important, and it's going to tell you a lot about what Aaron Judge would do tonight. And not even 2 seconds later, first pitch comes out, crack that joint, home run. It was the timing of it couldn't have been any better. Boom, he home runs. Up comes Jazz Chisholm. Boom, he home runs. And now the Yankees are rolling. They're up 5, and they get into the 5th inning. Garrett Cole is dealing. He is cooking. They are cooking. Everything is rolling for them at that time. And then they had an epic collapse. You talk about fundamentals. Fly ball, center field, Aaron Judge is there. I'm sure Aaron Judge has made this routine catch a million times, right, Tay? Right? A million times. But for whatever reason, in that moment, the light's at its brightest, the moment's at its highest pressure, he goes and he takes his eye off a routine fly ball. Hits off his glove. Couple of plays later, still 2 outs, base hit, right to Rizzo, routine play. You see it running spring training all the time. Ball hit to first base. Pitcher comes off the mound to cover first base. First baseman picks it up. Trot, toss it to first base. Catcher catches it, steps on first base, out. Ball hit to Rizzo. He gathers it for whatever reason. Probably was tired. Garrett Cole didn't run to first base like Cole thought he would. Boom. Mookie Betts gets to first base, run scores. They had a bad error at third. Volpe forced to pass, forced to throw to Chisholm. Safe. They had an opportunity for the third out 5 times. Epic collapse. The Dodgers go on to win that game, win the World Series. But the Dodgers win, man, and it helped baseball to have the Yankees. Now, Rob Manfred definitely prayed to whatever God that he believed in that he can get the Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series, and the numbers showed that. They had high numbers. 15 plus million viewerships in the States and more outside of in Japan. He would have wished that it probably went 7. 7 was better. 7 would have been better for MLB. At least 6. But the Dodgers packed him up in 5. Got him out of there in 5. But it was the stars were on display, and you saw some absolute great baseball. Freddie Freeman, if he wasn't going to the Hall of Fame, he damn sure is now. After that World Series performance, what has he had? 5 home runs in the World Series? 4. One of those being a grand slam. Talk about grit and toughness. Played with the hurt ankle. Made many plays in there. Was the World Series MVP. You just stepped your ticket to Cooperstown, my boy. First ballot. But shout out to the Dodgers, man. And what makes it even more crazy is you think about Shohei, you think about Mookie, you think about Freddie Freeman, you think about Clayton Kershaw will probably come back next year, right? That's a name that people recognize and know. Maybe, maybe not. Is he coming back next year? Yeah, he should. You still got Yamamoto coming back next year and whoever else may come back here. And now they're like, oh, yeah, Juan Soto, who was the 26-year-old stud for the Yankees, he's a free agent. And baseball, they said Juan Soto will get somewhere between $700 and $800 million in free agency. 700 to 800. And the Dodgers may be in play. The Dodgers may be in. Listen, they're gonna be. I'm not saying they're gonna get them, but a team that the two teams that played in the World Series, the Dodgers and the Yankees, they had the two biggest payrolls. If the term ever meant the best team money can buy, those two teams personified it. And both of them. I mean, the Yankees are gonna try to sign Soto. They want him back. So it's going to be $700-800 million. And if the Dodgers can get him for $700-800 million, I'm sure they would want him as well. But congrats to all the Dodgers fans for winning their 8th World Series, man. But let me know, where do you guys put that collapse? Who was it? Greg Norman in the Masters a couple years back? All sports, and not just baseball. Of course, 28-3. Can't forget that. Atlanta, New England. Shoot. Who else was down? What wasn't the Mavs down? What was the Mavs down? Were they down?
They were 2-0 on the Heat.
No. 2000. Oh yeah, 2006. Yeah. They were up 2-0, and then the Heat came back. Huh?
It's the Tim Donaghy era.
Well, okay. I mean, whatever it is, defend your Mavs.
The Red Sox came back from 3-0 on the Yankees.
The 3-0 on the Yankees. They did a documentary about that one, right? So put in the chat. What do you feel? Where does this fall in the epic failures collapse?
Game collapse or series collapse?
It was both. It was an epic game and series. It cost you the World Series. All right, man, that's it for me, man. I appreciate you guys listening. Remember, head on over to Spotify and Apple to download the podcast there. That's what you want to do. YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Follow Fanatic Views. Follow at Mr. Fourth and Long. Follow Unfiltered with Jesse Holley on all of your socials, Instagram, and YouTube and Facebook and all those other places. And remember, but what if it goes right? But what if it goes right? I'm your boy, Jay Holley, man. I'm out of here. Remember, eliminate the contingencies. I'm out.